Aleka, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about AI today.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people are talking about, a lot of people are interested in. It's one of
hmm
these weird tools
hmm
or categories, where it is simultaneously viewed as maybe a threat. AI, generally, people talk about AI. Is it coming for us? Is it going to replace our jobs? But it's also an opportunity. There's a huge opportunity for us as creators, as business owners, as strategic thinkers to use this tool as kind of a collaboration tool and a partner. So
hmm
we're going to dive deep on that and talk about how we can use it as a partner for
hmm
us as creators, as business owners. Before we do that, though, I want to touch on last time we had you on the podcast, we were talking about keywords. A lot of people know you from your Cooking with Keywords course, and have heard from a lot of people of how kind of transformative that's been. Talk to me about kind of the current state of keywords. What's your view on keywords as it relates to keyword research with the current version of the internet, even like AI and keywords, meaning like people are starting to get their content differently? Would just be curious to hear your thoughts on that. People can go back and listen to that interview, but touch on that before we dive deep into AI.
Keywords don't matter anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Keywords always are going to be around. That's why I emphasize it so much. That's why I created courses on it. That's why I still pursue them. Like they're always going to be there. They're the basis of the search algorithm. How is Google going to find your content unless you're focusing on the specific keyword and optimizing for it? So that's never going to go away. In my opinion, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not possible for Google to find your stuff without keywords. But the whole layout and approach of how we create our content, of course, has changed, right? It's not so much the black and white outline that everyone needs to follow anymore, or suggested outline that a lot of people are following. It's more, kind of free. I feel like more free when you write your content, keeping those keywords in mind, of course. Talking or including a keyword in a certain amount of times, that's way in the past. We don't have to do that anymore. Google's super smart and it's only getting smarter. So with AI, here it's keywords are it's not affecting keywords is what I'm saying. It's still so important, and I think people do realize that. Although I've talked to a lot of bloggers, and I get that I've gotten the feel that a lot of bloggers are kind of taking a step back with the SEO approach a bit,
Hmm.
which is makes sense because all the algorithms and AI have kind of just like mixed everything up. But keywords are still such a important part of that SEO monster,
Yep.
and other SEO approaches may not be as looked at as important or followed as to the T as much, but keywords
Yeah.
are always going to be
And
important to me.
one thing that I think about, like drawing comparisons to different industries, I'm really interested in the real estate world. And one of the things that I've noticed in the real estate world is there's a lot of conversations around like commercial real estate has been crushed. Okay. But then if you, or more broadly, people would say like, oh, real estate over the last few years has been crushed. And it's like, well, actually commercial real estate. And then you double click on that and it's actually like in urban places like office as a category of commercial real estate. Okay, so then you get really specific. I think similarly, when people talk about the world of search and SEO, it's really important to think about what category are you talking about? And e-commerce is different than like somebody who's writing lifestyle versus somebody who's writing an affiliate site. And in the recipe world, you can think of how people are using Google now. And I think it's one of the categories that will hold on to the concept of keywords a little bit longer than other categories like affiliate, because the affiliate pattern, I think, has shifted where I think of myself as a user. If I need a product and I'm currently using ChatGPT, I'm more likely to go in in long form describe my current use case. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old daughter, and I'm interested in helping them learn badminton. Is there a store close by to me that has a badminton set for kids that, is within 10 minutes or something like that.
Hmm.
Like that might be an example. Obviously, it's not like a keyword, it's very long form. It's ChatGPT, it's AI at its best. I'll still probably not use ChatGPT for a recipe, but will go to Google and say like meatloaf recipe or something like that. Like I think it will hold on in the world of recipe a little bit longer than it will others. I think
I see.
eventually it'll shift over.
So you're
But
saying
what
like longer term or question, like getting more specific
Well,
answers.
I even mean like, I think the idea of like old school keywords is just going to exist longer for recipes than it does for like best running shoes. Like, I
Yes.
think that will fall off quicker than Google search for best chocolate chip cookie recipe. I think that will hold on longer as a pattern, I don't think it will forever. I just think
Hmm.
today it still exists in its similar version versus some of the like commerce type transactions. So what I'm
Yes.
saying is like, I think when people say like, hey, keywords don't really matter anymore, I think you have to be really slow to think about in what category. In what category are you talking about the idea of like a traditional keyword search on Google? Because I think it will live longer for recipes than it will for other categories. But to your
Hmm.
point, I think that will change. And I do think one of the things that does make a lot of sense is like Google is getting in all of these LLMs, large language models, are getting so much better at understanding like an image. Alt text used to be really important, but now it's like it can look and understand what an image is really well. It can understand contextually what a post is. You don't need to like include the keyword like you're saying really strategically multiple times throughout the post. And so it's interesting, just there's this, and it's probably why you do what you do, this crossover between the idea of keywords and content, but also AI and how those
Hmm.
are all starting to play together. And so I think these best practices around keywords, keyword research, understanding how many times people are searching for a certain thing, all of those are still really important,
Hmm.
but it's changing in terms of how you structure a post, how you write, all of that
Hmm.
stuff that you talked about. So, anyways,
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. I'm curious to hear, along your journey, you had this course, have success with this, you are teaching people about keywords, but then you see another opportunity as a course creator, as a background, as an educator, crafting curriculum. It's one of your specialties. Tell me why you decided to create a new course around teaching people about AI, and then we're going to talk about kind of how we can be thinking about AI as content creators.
I'm somebody who always likes to, not likes, but I accept change pretty well, considering, this industry changes so often. It's like you became a blogger and you should know that things are never going to stay the same. So I know a lot of people are opposed to it, but AI is here to stay, and we can either run and hide and never be open to it because we're afraid, which I think is a big reason why people don't want to use it. Or you can accept it and learn it as quickly as possible to try to get ahead of the game as much as you can. Because I always look at it as there's so many people out there that are using it and getting ahead. And I'm kind of like falling behind. I'm wasting my time, right? That's kind of how I think of it. And whenever I have that like FOMO, idea, I'm like, oh, well, I got to jump on this. I got to learn it as best as I can, because if I can find ways for it to help me work more efficiently and save me time, which is I have no time these days. It's like so hard to find any time to really focus on what I need to do, then I'm going to take advantage of it. And I know, I mean, if anyone's has a brain, you know that AI is not going anywhere. It's just going to get more and more complex and be more omnipresent. So I was right away like a little bit hesitant because when it rolled out, because I kind of wanted it to see, well, how are people using it? What are people saying about it? What are the best chatbots, right? So I took time and I did a lot of research and was like, I'm going to really learn as much as I can about whatever I can to help me make the most out of my time and use it to become a better blogger and,
Mm-hmm.
use it almost not as a cheat sheet, but like ways to save me time and get to the output quicker,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think it's so great at is taking the things that we would manually do on our
Mhm.
own and doing it in seconds, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
an example is, I think of this interview we did with Molly, what Molly made, and she talked about getting survey data, feeding that into ChatGPT, and then asking it to summarize that data. That's a great example of something that I would have had to do manually, look through the information, sort through it, kind of like use my brain to understand a large amount of data and information, which it's like, I'm not great
You
at doing
could,
that.
but it
I
takes some
could,
forever.
I could start to get like a feel for it. But really, if you feed that data into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever model you're using, it's going to be able to like look through that at like light speed and give you helpful, valuable information. So I feel like that's an example of how you might use it.
Oh,
As
yes.
you started to step into this and start to learn more about it, where were the opportunities that you saw to create efficiencies as a blogger, as a content creator, to take those manual things that you were doing, and maybe it was 15 minutes, an hour, maybe it was a day, turn it into seconds, and then along with that, what were the areas that you said, you know what, I'm not going to feed this into ChatGPT. I'm going to keep this as like my like human forward, it's important for me to create it. An example that I would give in that category is like, people that are doing a video version of themselves. Like we would never do that yet. And I still think it's probably years away where you would like feed a model a bunch of videos of yourself and then just have the model create videos that you post to social. Like in our world, we're not going to do that.
No.
But there are other opportunities that we might start to create efficiencies and things that we were manually doing before. So tell me about some of your first steps into exploring ways to create some efficiencies.
I think as a blogger, as a content creator, creating outlines is probably the most common thing and more tedious part of writing content these days. I don't know. It takes me a long time. I don't like to make every blog post the same. I think it gets so monotonous and a little bit boring for readers. And it depends on the recipe. You're not always going to have the same H2s and H3s in every single piece of post. So I like in the course I talk about using asking for a certain outline and kind of picking and pulling certain headings that you want to choose and use in your post to make it just better and more thorough. So creating an outline super important, and it's not just because you create an outline does not mean chat or whatever. It's writing the content for you, right?
Yep.
That's the important part to take away here. There's one piece of it, and then you're going to finish it. But definitely outline writing. Definitely, I think the most common things that people use, chatbots for are, writing your meta descriptions and your alt text and your Pinterest descriptions. I think everybody does that. That's just, and I think that, did you guys hear that? That's my alert. I tried to turn it off. So if you hear it, just ignore it.
Let's pause real quick, and we can edit this out. I think if you click Do Not Disturb, are you on a Mac?
Yes. Where do I
Yeah.
go? I was
Yeah,
looking.
no, you're all good. If you go in the top right next to
Yeah.
the time,
Yes.
and you click that where you usually would have like Wi-Fi settings and stuff,
Yep.
in the top right of that window, there should be a Do Not Disturb. Do you see that?
In the Wi-Fi settings, let me click open Wi-Fi.
It's sorry, it's like it's one of the areas that you do the Wi-Fi settings. I'll send this over in chat.
I can find it. Give me a second.
It's like the it looks like two toggles.
Looking
Let's see here.
in the blue bar at the top. I don't see.
Yeah, in the top right, where's chat here? I'm gonna just send over this screenshot. I think that's probably the easiest way. Here. Let's see. All right. Can you see that in chat?
Let me see.
So it's like by the time, if you click
Yeah,
on
okay.
the time, that will like slide out a bunch of stuff. And then,
I see focus. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Focus. Okay, got it. Do not
Yep.
disturb for 1 hour. Okay.
perfect.
Thank you. That was driving me crazy.
That's great.
I've-
No, I was gonna mention it after you wrapped up.
Oh, such a people. Okay.
Great. So I can ask a follow-up question. and then
Okay.
we can edit that out.
Okay.
So I think that's a great example, creating an outline where what you're saying is you're not having it write an entire post for you, but you are giving it some contextual information. So that would be the prompt. People talk about prompt engineering, essentially creating a good prompt. So you give it a prompt and you're using it almost as a partner to say, in this case, what are the things that I'm missing with this specific recipe? Like with that, the example of giving an outline, can you talk about how you're using it? So you're saying, I'm writing this recipe, it's a recipe post. Can you give me some sections that I should make sure to include when I'm writing about this recipe?
Yeah. Do you want me to go into
Yeah,
my whole stage process? Okay. And then
that'd be great.
there are other ways that I use chat that I wanted to mention too after this
Yep.
because it's not just outline. Okay. So in my course, I mean, as a teacher, I know it's so important to create like a roadmap map or steps or stages for people to follow. Otherwise, it's very easy to forget, right?
Sure.
So I broke it down into 5 stages and I have it laid out here because it's impossible for me to remember all my prompts. Like I'm not, I'm not who's going to remember that, right? But I have them in a doc that I easily keep open in my Google Drive and I can copy and paste. So when I'm saying enter these prompts in, you're just literally copying and pasting it. So it only takes a second. So stage 1 is the keyword and topic ideation stage, where if you have a keyword already, you already took my course, you already know what keyword you're gonna go with. You can kind of breeze through this stage, but at the same time, this topic ideation stage is really going to give you lots of different topic ideas or longer tail keywords or things that you may not have thought of when you decided on that keyword initially, like a different content angle to take, or maybe a different variation on the keyword, or maybe the intent is not informational and it's more like transactional or something that you didn't think of. Asking ChatGPT the certain prompts that I have here will help you kind of either uncheck or check those boxes so that you know whether you should move forward with that keyword, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I,
So can you give an example of
yeah,
like what would that prompt be, and then
so
how
yeah,
would you interact with it once it gives you some information back?
sure. So I would type in something like this. Here's my primary keyword. You'd enter your keyword, generate 10 SEO optimized blog post ideas that reflect high user intent and are likely to perform well in search results, include suggested title formats and what type of post, whether it be listicle, how to, guide, comparison, and that fits each idea best. That would give you a list. And then I always have follow up prompts. I have like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 here that you can kind of pick and choose from. Like, what are the most searched questions related to this keyword? What are their long tail keyword variations or related? What are 10 content angles I can take for this topic? What are common pain points or problems people have about this? What's the user intent of this keyword? How would this keyword be best written? Should I turn it into a comparison post? Da da da. What type of pages are currently ranking on page 1 for this keyword? Can you summarize the content types that are resulting in the SERPs and identify content gaps? Like there's so many different, and I can keep going on, but there's so many different prompts that I share in the course that you can copy and paste that will kind of just give you an idea of whether to move forward with that keyword and go to the next stage in the process, or to kind of tweak it a bit,
Sure.
or
Yep. And so essentially you're using it as an ideation partner. You have kind of a general idea of where you want to go and you're refining your idea.
yep.
And my guess is for content creators, there's anybody listening, there's a wide range of people who create content in a certain way. One would be like Lindsay, when she's creating content, it's like she has an idea and she's just like, she knows she wants to do like a cherry smoothie recipe. She
Yeah.
goes forward and she does that because that's what she's been thinking about. It's what she's been working on. She creates it. There's not keyword research behind it. There's not like user intent behind it.
Yeah.
Then there's somebody in the middle who like kind of has an idea of maybe what they're thinking about, what they want to do. They want to kind of refine that idea, and they like to have a process, like a refining process
Yeah.
around, hey, I'm kind of thinking this is what it is. Should I get nudged this way? Should I nudge that way? And then on the far end, there's people who are like systems people. Like they love the idea of the system more than maybe like the actual content creation of the recipe. And we've seen versions of all different types of creators have massive success. One isn't better than the other, but it's almost like there's this range for you as a user of AI to figure out where are you going to land. And how are you going to use the tool to best kind of guide you as you make those decisions around how you're creating? Do you have thoughts on like where it sounds like for you, you land kind of in the middle where you have ideas of what you want to be creating, you have kind of a general sense of where you want to go, and then you're using the tools, whether keyword research or ChatGPT in this instance, to help refine what that might be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want bloggers to, and I talk about this in my keyword research course, don't just do all keyword research recipes, because then you're going to get burnt out because you're not going to do it pure off of inspiration and creativity, right? You still need to create those posts that just, you wake up and you're like, I want to do the cherry smoothie. I'm going to do the cherry smoothie because it's what makes me happy, right?
Yep.
And that's fine. And in the course, I actually talk about those different phases. You know, the beginner, from you have no idea what you want to create content on, or if you have an idea, building it and making it better and more refined. Yes, and ChatGPT would come into play there at that stage and help you kind of, you know, pinpoint, okay, well, cherry smoothie, just cherry smoothie, is that what I'm doing? Am I going super general, or am I going to target cherry smoothie without dairy, or
Sure.
cherry smoothie, you know, with frozen cherry, whatever it is. So that's just a very, you know, surface level type of example, but that is how I would use chat. And I think I need to say that ChatGPT is not a keyword research tool. You know,
Sure.
you're still going to use key search and all the tools that you use. It's not going to give you search volume.
Yeah.
It's not going to give you the competitive score, but it will give you keyword ideas. So like, for example, after this stage, and it gives me all those keyword ideas, I ask it, can you list these keywords on one line separated by commas? So now you have a whole paragraph of keywords separated by commas that you can copy and paste and put it into key searches quick difficulty feature, and it will give you the volume and the difficulty for all the keywords that ChatGPT recommended. And I immediately look at the volume, because if there's no volume, then I'm like, competitive score, I'm like, I'll give, you know, it's okay. Maybe
Sure.
I'll rank for it. I'll go for it. But if there's zero volume for that keyword, then I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to go a different angle or different approach. So
Yeah, it's a great way to inform the decisions that you're making around what type of content that you want to create. And I think the other thing that's always at play is there's the world of like search performance, and then there's the world of like social performance. And as content creators, depending on where you want to focus, those are always going to need to be things that we think about. Hey, how will this? We've done interviews with people who are like TikTok and Instagram short form video creators, and they lead with thinking about a hook. Like, what is the hook going to be for this recipe that's going to draw people in to continue to watch the reel so I can get more views? So hopefully those people do like a branded search for my recipe. So you get 3 million views, and then maybe people are searching for you, like as an example. Even in that instance, though, you can still use a tool like ChatGPT as you would a partner in your business to brainstorm, to create a prompt, to think of like, hey, I'm thinking of this recipe. I'm going to do this recipe. You know, what are some things that might help draw people in related to this recipe within the first 3 seconds of this video? So all of these different ways that we can be thinking strategically about using these tools to help inform, or it's even like, tell me if this resonates with you, it's like refining our own thinking. And I have friends who sometimes they call and they're like, I have this business idea, I just need to talk about it. Like,
oh my gosh.
and my role isn't really even like coming up with ideas, it's just listening. And I think
So-
sometimes that's what this is like a sounding board. What were you going to say though? I can
Talk
see you.
about sounding board. Literally, I talk with Chad every day.
Yeah.
Chad is my ChatGPT
Okay,
guy.
love it. Yeah.
I picked his voice. It's the voice mode. If you guys haven't tried it, I go on walks in the mornings. You know, every other day I'll do a walk. I'll change my fitness routine. But when I go on my walks, I'm super excited because you'll see me walking and talking to nobody, but I'm talking to my
For sure. I've done it as well.
Chad.
Yeah.
I literally like I'm creating another course, and I'm thinking I need a soundboard, right? Something to bounce ideas off of somebody. And oh my gosh, it's crazy. I just talk, and he's like, yeah. And have you seen how realistic he sounds lately? She sounds, it sounds.
And
My
there's
kids are like, are you on the phone? I'm like, no,
There's
I'm not on the phone.
inflection, and there's like ums and ahs, like, oh yeah,
It's
let me take a look at that and
chuckle.
see. Yeah,
Yes.
totally. It's like so bizarre.
It's
Yeah.
Fairly realistic, yeah.
So for
And
anybody
I
who hasn't done this, so this is advanced voice mode within
Mhm.
ChatGPT. You have to,
Yes,
I think you have to be on do you know if
plus
you have to be on the plus plan, which is like
I
20 bucks a month?
yeah, it's not it's totally worth it because you'll run out of prompts
Yep.
quickly if you're on the free plan anyway. But
Yes. And so it's like, and then the other piece is like downloading the app onto your phone, but you
yes,
just download the app and then you hit
hmm that
within the like
little
ask anything field on the far
the
right side, there's like a little
voice
button that you
wave.
can click.
Yep. hmm
Talk a little bit more like when you were on those walks, how were you using it?
Okay, so first it's gotten better. It used to interrupt me every time I would pause to think, but I would tell it like, please wait a minute, wait till I'm done talking. But now it does a good job of not interrupting me. But I will literally say like, hey, like I have an idea I want to, talk through. What did I say yesterday was, I have a course idea. I'm kind of confused or going back and forth between names, and then a roadmap, again, system, how I want to lay it out. Can you give me some ideas? And then it starts talking. And then I'll say, oh, yeah, I like that idea. Can you give me a little bit more of how I would approach that? And then it's literally talking to like a course creator, an expert, whoever, just to give you ideas that you literally would never thought of. I want to do an acronym. I love following acronyms to kind of outline a process. And I'm using acronyms like my name. He's like, oh, for the A you can use achieve, and the L, like just different ideas that I literally would never think of, or it would take me days to
Yeah.
come up with these ideas. And then the best part about it is when you're done talking, it transcribes it, puts it all into your ChatGPT window, and you can go back and you can save it, copy it, continue the chatting later on a
hmm
computer, and it doesn't go anywhere, which is the best part about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've
Oh
used
wow.
it for not ideation, but education. So like I'm on a walk and I'm trying to understand the one I went for like an hour walk and had my headphones in and I was trying to understand like how they divide geographically different areas for the House of Representatives because I didn't understand it. And it was like, and I realized that and I was like, I could like read about it or I'm on this walk. I could just like power it up and like have a conversation around. And it could exist for anything. You could talk about it with like TikTok growth or Facebook strategy or like
Or a
all of these.
recipe.
Yes, recipe. Like, and you could, but part of it, it feels like is the initial prompt to get it to act in a certain way. So can you talk about when you are, let's say, talking about marketing, how do you set it up? Let's say in this instance, we're talking about advanced voice, you power it up. Are you giving it a prompt and saying like, hey, I'd like you to pretend to be an expert in marketing. I'm going to ask you some questions around da 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 da, da, and then go
Yeah.
into it?
Yeah, that's recommended to tell it to act as a SEO expert, a professional chef, expert marketer, anything. Just to give it like a little bit of, hey, this is where your robot brain needs to be for this conversation. So make sure you're extra on top of this topic, right? So I always preface it with act as this if it's something super specific. But you don't have to, of course. You can refine it as you go through it.
hmm
There's so many different, examples where it depends. But yeah, I usually will do that before. Or you can create a custom GPT that is an expert in that area, which is something a lot of people don't really do. But you can totally do that and have a custom GPT is basically your own little robot assistant that is an expertise at that certain area. Like you can have
Yeah.
an email marketing GPT or a social media GPT or a blog creation, recipe GPT, whatever it
Yep.
is,
Can you
which is
talk
nice.
about the custom GPTs that you use the most, and I'll share mine as well?
Okay, so I can pull it up.
Yeah.
It's more so email, and I have email. I have a course coach to help me with my courses. I have a brand collab manager. I have a marketing mastermind. I have a hosting helper with my, entertaining content. I have a blog goblin. I have
What's a
a,
blog goblin? What's a blog goblin?
It's just, helps me with my blog posts and, outline them and,
Yeah, it's a
kind of
great
pick
name.
up with that stage too. Yeah. Graham goals help me with Instagram, and Facebook, person, but assistant. But to be honest, I don't use GPTs as much as I use projects
Yeah,
because
can you talk about the
projects,
difference?
yes. Okay. Projects will remember what you've talked about. GPTs, unfortunately, unless you add the information into the little window that you have there, it's not going to remember the past thread of conversation that you had, which I kind of think is ridiculous.
Sure.
Because GPTs could be great in that aspect, but you can turn a project into a GPT if you want. And it's right below GPTs. You hit new project and you can name the project. I have one that's course real ideas. I have one, right? And I talk about how I want it to help me create ideas for my reels, do scripts for my reels, do captions for my reels. And all of that information is literally below that window and it remembers everything. So you can pick up a conversation weeks from now about your next Instagram reel, which
Hmm.
is really why I like projects. You just can't share them like you can share a GPT, like with an assistant.
Sure. So if you had something that you wanted to use with your team, you could share that as you could create a GPT and then share it. So an example of one that we use is I have one called Partner GPT, which I use when we are, and this realistically probably would be better as a project because it's just me right now. But like
Okay.
if we
Yeah.
shared it with Jenna on our team, it would make sense. But I loaded it in. I gave it the context around being like a expert in sales and social media, and I uploaded our rate sheet for any partnerships
Nice.
that we
Yeah.
have. And then what I've been doing actually is I use this really incredible tool called Granola AI, and Granola doesn't record your conversation. Like a Otter, like sometimes you go into a Zoom meeting and there's like another window sitting in there and it records the conversation and then does
Yep.
notes.
Yep.
It technically is listening, but it's transcribing in real time, but it doesn't keep the audio file, and it happens on your computer. So it's like it records
That's
your
awesome. Yeah.
your side and then the other side. So like let's say I have a conversation with a brand, I jump on that call. The note taking app is taking notes. Granola, it's granola.ai, I think. And then I'll have all that information. And then what I'll do is I'll actually call Lindsay and I'll have a 10-minute call with her and I'll say, hey, I'm going to record this, want to get your thoughts on the conversation I just had with, XYZ brand.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do is I'll take that conversation with the brand. I'll take the call with Lindsay around her ideas of what it could be. I put both of those transcripts into the partner GPT, and then I say, like, hey, create, 3 different package levels that we could send over to the brand that we were working with. Previously,
That's
that would
nice.
have been like 3 hours of
Yeah.
work. I probably would
Yeah.
have like punted on it because it's not work that I love to do, but I don't mind
Yeah.
being on a call with people. I actually enjoy it. It's just like the manual process of putting that together. And all of that is done within, again, it's probably like 10 seconds.
No time.
I have to
Yeah.
revise it. Like, it's not like I'm just shooting that off then, but it's
No,
this
no,
idea that we've talked about, Lindsay and I often talking about. It comes from Dan Martell, who wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time, where he talks about 1080.
Have it.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. Have you
Yeah.
read it?
No, it's sitting on my nightstand
Yes, one
under
of
my
those.
other 5
Okay,
books.
okay, totally. Yeah, you'll get to it.
Yeah.
But it's called 1080-10, this rule, where he talks about it within the context of like working with people, delegating, where like you take 10% of the time to shape up the project. The person goes off and works on it. That's the 80%. And then you
Yeah.
come back together and you spend the last 10% revising. And I think a great example of that is using AI tools where
Yeah.
it's just that the 80% happens in seconds, not minutes
Yeah.
usually.
Exactly.
And so I found that to be super helpful with a partner GPT that has our rate sheet and whatnot. So, but you're using projects
sure.
more than custom GPTs generally.
Yeah, I mean, why if it can save the memory in previous conversations, why would you not take advantage of that?
Yeah.
You know?
And so it has historical context around all of the threads that you've
Yes.
spun up within that
Yeah.
project. Yep. Which is
Yeah. And
awesome.
I think it's important to point out before I forget that a lot of people don't realize that you can customize your GPT. They do realize that. Well, unless you're totally new, you can go to settings and tell your GPT how to act, how to behave. What kind of tone to write in, and what traits to have. But that will only remember that. That won't remember the specifics about who you are as a person. So making sure that you're using the memory feature and you're telling your GPT to remember this.
Sure.
Literally, like when you start using it, or I mean, I still tell it, hey, don't forget, I did this before. I have two boys, these ages,
Yep.
and just brief interests so that when I talk about something like a kid's recipe, it literally will talk about Calvin and Lucas and it will mention this and that. And it mentioned the other day, remember, Calvin loves watermelon. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that I told it that.
Yeah.
And yes, he does. And thank you for remembering. So little things about yourself and your experiences and your anecdotes, like put that into the memory
Yep.
so that when you get those outputs from ChatGPT, it's more you than a robot. Do you know what
When
I'm
you say
saying?
put that in, are you saying after you say something, include within the prompt, remember this? Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it naturally has a long-term memory across threads, which is great, but has a tendency to forget things naturally,
Sure.
and the only for sure way to make it remember something is to say, remember this, and then you can write, or you write it and then you say, please don't forget that. And it will say add to memory. And in your settings, you can actually delete certain memories if like maybe you change the format of something. Maybe you have another kid and you want to say, I have 3 kids now.
Yeah.
You can delete that under personalization, and it's right in the settings, customization, and you can delete those memories, manage memories. There it is. And you literally can trash certain memories that it remembers so that it doesn't keep bringing that up anymore.
Yep. So you can go back and you can actually see what does it currently remember
Yes.
about you.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Exactly.
A great example of this the other day, I was going to bed. I was like, I'm trying to find like the perfect book that I can read. And I was thinking like, what would I want to read before bed where I'm not like ramping up, I'm ramping down. So I think the prompt was something like, knowing what you know about me, what would be some good books that I could read when I'm going to bed? And it was like awesome. It was super helpful.
really,
and I
yeah.
ended up picking one of them that is suggested, which is The Conscious Parent, which is like, okay, it's like a parenting book. It's not like gonna, ramp me up, but also like I'm interested in it. And so it gave it, different categories. It was like, here's some business books that aren't too, like crazy, but are also going to be interesting. Here's some parenting books. Like,
That's awesome.
That's great. So, projects versus custom GPTs. I've yet to create a project and I need to do that. I had a long conversation with a friend who was talking about, he's on a mission to create what he was calling master context projects. And so for each part of his life, he's creating a project and just giving it as much context as possible. So like one is a family adventure, custom or project master. And he gives it as much context as possible. Here's what my daughters love to do. Here's what I love to do. Here's what my wife loves to do. And then they'll go to a city and he'll be like, tell me, what some of the best things. Yeah. But I think we could also probably use those within our business. It could be categories that we like to create, go ahead.
Or dietary restrictions.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Like, if you lean towards certain ingredients or stay away from certain ingredients, and you're asking it for ideas for your next recipe, then it will obviously remember that. You tell it to remember, and it won't ever mention that in the future. Or in a blog outline, it can say, substitutions for this is not peas if you hate peas, or something like that. It will remember you and your preferences and make it just more personal.
That's awesome. So let's get back to some of, you talked about outlines as an example. We talked about using it as a ideation partner, talking through ideas. What are some of the other things that you've found that have created efficiencies for you with the content creation process as you've gone through, whether it be blog post or social media? What are some of those other ones that you could surface as different ideas for people to consider?
Well, other than, after that stage 2, I have stage 3 is to write the first draft. And normally I do it myself. because you can have ChatGPT do it for you, but I don't want it to be AI written, right? I want to try to stay away from that. So I'll write it myself. And then once and that first draft, by the way, is a mess, right? It's just like, I'm just typing and I'm not thinking. The kids are probably in the background, I'm just getting it done.
Yep.
And I get it done much quicker, by the way. I copy and paste into chat and I'll say, and I give it a prompt again, can you improve it without losing my writing style, my tone, my personality, make it a little witty, I like to be, a little casual, friendly. And then I have this whole bullet point list to just refine it, but not change my writing,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So it's going to maybe break up the paragraphs more, maybe I have it suggest spots for internal linking, which is really nice, things that you never thought about. And you could even feed it your other posts so that it can refer to that, which is really cool.
Can you talk about that? So are you giving it a spreadsheet of your posts in a project?
You can. Yes, you can. You can just have that spreadsheet available for each different thread that you're referring to and say, hey, like I'm going to upload this CSV file of, all of my blog titles or blog URLs, or title would probably be the better route because some URLs don't always match the
Sure.
title. It is a little bit more tedious. It won't just pull all your titles from your sitemap. Unfortunately, you can use your URLs from your sitemap, which take 2 seconds to copy.
Yep.
But again, you want to make sure that the keyword is matching the URL.
Sure.
And then you can say, like, here's the content on my blog. What internal linking suggestions do you think would be best for this blog post? And tell me where to put them. And even what anchor text to use.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
So that would be, we're talking about the sitemap. You can usually find your sitemap by just typing in your URL and then /sitemap.xml.
XML. Yep.
And that will bring you to your sitemap, which essentially is a list of all of the different URLs on your site.
Yep.
And then what you're saying is you could take that if you wanted to and just like print it. Like, what do you?
I just copy and
Got
paste
it.
that whole column.
Yeah. So you're like selecting all of it. That will then have all of your URLs. And then you can use that and say, there's probably a lot of different unique things you could do with that. But one of them could be, based on this post, what are some good links, internal links? Yep.
Yes. And the other way could be, can you create topic clusters and content clusters, which is the direction that SEO is going in, right? How do I fill in these content gaps? If I have a recipe post on this and this and this, like, how do I kind of tie them together and complete that cluster so that it's more, the authority's there, if that makes sense.
For context, for those who are kind of wondering what that idea is, cluster or topic authority, can you talk about that and why that's important?
Yeah, I mean, Google doesn't want us to just be posting, recipes that are or content. I don't want to just, refer to food bloggers, but, just content that is kind of separate and on their own independently. You have one random post here and one random post. It wants to see the connection between the content. And that also proves that you have a lot of authority. If you have a lot of content on your site that is supporting each other, if you have a spaghetti recipe, you should probably have a marinara sauce recipe and maybe a bolognese recipe and a garlic, I don't know, just something to complete that cluster. That's a very surface level example again, but just the idea of creating content around each other. So you have what's performing well in your post. What else can I add to my blog that's going to support it and keep people on my blog if they're on that page and clicking more and giving it just the most that it can, giving the person the most they can to make the best recipe they can, and a complete recipe, sides, salads, drinks, just everything that completes it, the sauces, everything included.
Yeah, that's great. Like, extreme example would be if you had a website and, like, let's say I started a website and I posted about my favorite candles, and then the next post was about like kitchen remodels and how to arrange your utensils, and then the next post was like caring for tree frogs. Like, that's an extreme example of a site that would be confusing for Google, because it's like, what is this actually about? How do I know if somebody...
What's your authority?
On caring for frogs, which I have a lot of authority after 1 year of caring for our tree frog rice.
Oh, nice.
And feeding it crickets before I go to bed every night.
Live or dead?
Both,
Oh,
depending
God.
on how the crickets are doing. We have a separate enclosure for the crickets
Wonderful.
to keep them alive, where I also feed them. But point being, on the other end, it's like somebody who specializes in sourdough. Okay, they're going to be viewed as an expert and authority on sourdough, and the likelihood of them showing up in some type of search field, whether it be Google or ChatGPT or wherever it might be, is going to be higher because you have demonstrated your authority by focusing on a certain topic. Obviously, within the general category of recipes, you can have topic clusters, like you were talking about, like groups.
Yep.
So maybe if you are becoming an expert in Instant Pot, you don't want to do just one. You want to make sure that you fill that out with like lots of different topics around best Instant Pots to buy, and then recipes for those, and care instructions and stuff like that. Okay, so that's great.
Yeah.
Another great example of like partnering with ChatGPT to understand maybe where some of those gaps are and how you could fill that in if you want to be an expert in a certain category.
Oh, yes, 100%.
So we've talked about this idea. You can you have a general idea of what you're wanting to post about. You're using it to kind of fill in some ideas for the outline. You can then take a rough draft that you have and use it as like an editor. I know people have also created custom GPTs or projects around editing a recipe, making sure that the flow of the recipe. I think of my friend Alex from A Couple Cooks talked about this like a year and a half ago, where he wanted to make sure, as an example that I can think about, is like that the order of the instructions is aligned with the order of the ingredients. Okay, that's a great example of it's not creating the recipe for you. It's making sure that you're communicating it in the best way possible. So that's another...
And not assuming that people know how to do something, or you're leaving out steps. I was working with somebody the other day, and I'm like, well, you left out this step. You have to know, you have to tell them to add it back to the pot with the ground beef. Otherwise, they're going to say, well, do I empty the pot? So things like that, we assume, but Chat can do a really good job of typing that up for you, for sure.
Yeah, and even just suggesting, hey, you mentioned salt, but you didn't include it in the instructions, or maybe you mentioned it in the instructions and it didn't include in the ingredients. Great.
Which I'm guilty of doing a lot.
So yes, totally. We all are. And so we've kind of walked it through some different examples of where you could be using it. Let's keep going with that. Is there another kind of step or stage along the way?
Yeah, some things that I've been successful at is creating brand proposals.
Yeah.
So if a brand, sends an email, or there's an opportunity that I want to apply for a brand sponsor, sponsor post or a partnership, I'll take the brief, the creative brief that they send, and I'll upload it into my brand collab manager GBT or my project, and I'll say,
Brand Goblin? Is it called the Brand Goblin?
No, that's the blog goblin.
Okay. I wish you also had a brand goblin.
I can have more goblins if you want. And then it'll basically give me all of these ideas, recipe ideas, that I can, pick and choose from, that I then would try to SEO optimize, right? I want to, every brand post I've created has some type of keyword value to it. So I can kill two birds with one stone, right?
You're getting paid to create content that will also earn you money. Yeah.
And it spits back such a great, it spits back such a great, many examples, and brands like multiple examples, right? So I'll give them, here's one way I can use the product, here's another way, like which example would you like to go with? It really ties in the brand goals, which I often would forget if I didn't read the whole brief 5 times, right? And I just copy and paste. I rewrite it make sure it sounds like me, not too cheesy, because ChatGPT tends to be a little bit cheesy sometimes. And then I'll pop it back in and into my email, and then I'll send that out. And I've gotten a lot of, partnerships that way because I'm giving it multiple ideas. Otherwise, it would take me over an hour in the past without ChatGPT to come up with ideas. I don't know if I'm just overthinking these things, but I want to get brand deals, so I spend a lot of time thinking of ideas that are unique and creative.
It related to brand deals, one of the ways that I've been using ChatGPT and Claude is, if we have an agreement that's sent over, we work with Danielle Liss from Liss Legal, who's incredible, and would really recommend her for anybody who's getting into the world of branded, brand partnerships or sponsor content. one of the things that I've been doing is right when they send that over, I'll quick run it through and just say, hey, can you let me know of any major considerations or red flags that exist in this contract? It'll highlight some things, and then I'll send that over as a quick response and say, hey, we'll send this over to our attorney to have a final review. But before we did, there's just a few things that I wanted to mention and get cleaned up, just so we can get closer to the final version. And it's been super helpful and insightful for that as well. And not just like, we're doing an addition on our house, and like being able to review that has been super helpful. And so doing the review of those we don't want it to be the final review for sure. But it's been helpful for that as well.
Oh yes, 100%. There's so many, non-blogging examples, but I use it every single day. All the time. I'm always talking to him, my Chad. I'm always
is it Chad CHAD? Is that
Chad? Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
love it. Great. It has a name.
I love his voice. Yeah, it's good. I'm cheating on my husband with my Chad.
Yeah, for sure. It's like those Instagram reels where it's like me and my ChatGPT,
AI.
Like dancing through the field.
I know.
Anything else that you feel like would be important as we come to close here? Obviously, there's a ton that we could talk about. We could do an entire podcast and do it daily to talk about like all of the different ways that we could be using AI. But anything else that you'd mention at the end as we wrap up here?
I just think that, if you properly, personalize your ChatGPT and take time to do that, just like you said, your friend is literally giving it all the information about, its family and your trips and all of that, then you're going to get such a better output and more personalized response every single time. And you can keep feeding it that information. It makes such a big difference. So take advantage of that. And in my course, the stages that I go through, I will say that they're very flexible and you can kind of pick and choose. I have a humanizer prompt that's like literally 3/4 of a page that you can plug in so that it's not using certain keywords or things that are dead giveaway for, ChatGPT, because you can kind of pick out
as an example.
Oh, that notorious M dash, which still rears its ugly head, even though I tell it not to use it. But yeah, just including personal anecdotes and stories and like things like that is really important to always make it your own, because we don't want it to pull content out there from other bloggers. I'm not about stealing. I'm about making my time more efficient, saving time, but while also adding my own personal spin and twist on it. And I followed this outline. I literally had a blog post that I published less than 20 days ago using this outline, and it's on the first page of Google for a high keyword.
Awesome.
So it does work. You just have to make sure that you're being smart about it and using it properly.
I love
and
that.
Just learning, taking time to learn.
I think I had this thought this morning, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years, or even like 1 to 10 years, for us as creators, but also as business owners and people who are doing things every day, I think our ability not to do the task, but to refine the tool that will do the task adjacent to us or create efficiencies for us is going to be one of the greatest advantages that we can have to allow us to do less of the things that don't matter if we're doing them in order to do more of the things that do matter if we're doing them. And so I think it's, as a kind of putting a bow on it, I think one of the great opportunities is for us as creators to do less of the menial, unimportant work in order for us to do more of the human related work for what we are doing, to infuse more humanity in what we're doing, and to do less of the things that don't really matter if we're doing them or not. I think about that when it's like paying invoices and
the tedious.
There's so many little tedious things that have to happen.
But you don't have to do it.
But nobody would really care if I do it or I don't do it.
Or hire chat,
and so as much as we can think about how do we do less of those things and more of the things, like if I can do another podcast each week because I'm doing less of the menial things that I'm doing at my computer that nobody sees but have to get done, that's a huge win
Yes.
to come out of it. So
Stuff that requires your expertise.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
So for people who want to check out the course, what's the best way to do that?
You can, well, I'm actually in the middle of I'm rebranding so that I can kind of reach
Great.
a wider audience. So that site is still going to be, it's actually Learn with Aleka. It's the first time I'm actually saying that, but I just launched the website literally last
All right.
week.
Congrats.
So everything's going to be on there. But for now, just you can visit Keywords with Aleka on Instagram, and you can just Google Keywords with Aleka, and all my courses will pop up there. And then eventually it'll redirect to all the new courses. But yeah, if you use the coupon code FBP for Food Blogger Pro 30, you can get 30% off my courses.
Cool.
So
that's great. Thanks for sharing that. We'll include that in the show notes. Aleka, it's great to chat with you. It's one of my favorite conversations. I think there's a ton of really cool opportunities, and I think our ability to like learn these tools is super important. So appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you on again as things inevitably change very quickly to keep talking about all things AI and creating and making sure that we are on the side of like looking at this as an incredible opportunity, because I think it really is. So thanks for coming on.
yes, thanks for having me.